Hello viewers, welcome to Angular 8 tutorial, and today we are at session 14 and discussing directives in Angular. So before jump start with this one, I would suggest kindly go through my previous tutorial so that you can correlate with some of topics examples with this ongoing one. Yeah, so let's start with. Okay, so today we are discussing what is directive and why this is being used. Okay, so directives in Angular manipulates DOM. So DOM stands for a document object model. Whenever we are just going to render a web page, you just think of whatever the HTML elements is going to the document object model, and it creates the document, and the document is nothing but it's a collection of HTML elements, and again one element is a collection of properties. So overall document, indirectly or directly, it's a collection of element with properties, right? So yeah, using a directive, what we supposed to do or what can be done, it can be change its behavior, layout and appearance of a particular element, right? So it can be measured why this directive is so much required, right? And directives are like components in Angular, which is core building block of Angular. Okay, so you all knows, like without component it's something, it is your entry point, it is a kind of your main function to a .NET program, right? So without directive or component, you can't even assume what is an Angular application, right? So directives, you can consider it is same important as component has. So that's why we are keeping it as a very core building block of Angular. So why now directive is needed? So in Angular framework, it ensures reusability of UI components. So this is the one major aspect we can consider. It uses a particular component or subcomponent in multiple places. With help of this, it can develop multi subcomponent to be used throughout the application. So there are basically three reasons I have categorized, and you must consider why directive is needed. First one is called your reusability, one of the strongest principle of any program, that your code or your component, sub-component or a module or sub-module or any of the thing you can assume that should be reusable and extend its functionality. That is the main basic principle of every so software or development or coding approach, right? And the second is the readability. Of course, readability gives a clear picture and a better understanding. So directive provides much more readability to developers to understand an application's functionality and its data flow. And the third one is of course maintainability. So these three keys are to success a you know develop a product or application or building a program. Okay, so maintainability is one of the major aspect of having directive. It can be easily decoupled and replaced with a new directive. So that's it. So these three major keys we should consider why directive is required in an Angular application. Okay, now as we have been discussing, like directive is something as component, but what exactly it differs to component, so that we are just going to cover it right away. What is the difference between directive versus component? So these are the some of directive major differences I have noted down. First one is called at directive, is the decorator which is used by directive declaration, whereas a component defined with at component, as you know. Directive mainly provides a new behavior to an existing DOM element. So guys, please understand and focus. If there is an already page rendered, right, and there is a document object model creation, so directive what helps? It helps to change its behavior of an existing element or which is already preloaded. Whereas a component is a directive itself which creates a UI widget Component is kind of directive which used to provide an appearance. Okay, with help of directive we can redesign reusable component. So using directive you can modify an existing component or usable component help to break down application in multiple small parts, whereas the component why it is being used so that if there is a large module or there is a complex module you are going to work with, you can substitute with multiple sub component within that. Okay, so let's suppose I just I'm giving one just example. You can assume there is a page which renders, you know, a collection of or let's suppose a number of employees. An organization can have 1 lakh or more than 1 lakh employees, right? So it is very difficult to manage everything, all the code to be handled within a single component. So you can assume there is one large component and one component is calling to its child component. So guys, no need to worry about what is component and child component. We are just going to cover in our next video sessions how components and sub component works and its communication. Okay, so you can assume there is a main component and within that there is a sub component which is getting rendered, and the child component what it does, it only just produces the grid view or the tabular view format data where 1 lakh employees can be adjusted with help of paging, right? But that child component is rendering as a small person to that main component which is called as your employee component. So that is all about components helps to break down applications in multiple small parts. Now in a DOM multiple directives can be used. So one of the major difference that one component can have multiple directives, whereas document only one component that can be considered as a parent. But yes, of course we can have multiple child component that we will be discussing in our next video sessions. So guys, these are the major things we have detected. So that's why I have given why directive is required and its differences. Then we have also types of directives. So Angular has categorized it into 3 types of directives we do have. One is called your component directive. You can, we have been discussing, like we are at 14 number of this session or series, and if you can consider, if you can focus, like in every example in our component.ts or the backend file we have at component, right? So like that is nothing but it's a kind of directive you have been using, and a directive has is a number of attributes. Okay, and the second one is called your attribute directive that we are just going to discuss in our next video session, and the third one is all about structural directive. Okay, so yeah, having lot of structural directive, one of we have been using some of common structural directive ng, if ng for all comes under structural directive. So we are just going to discuss in details one by one in our next video session. This is just simple introduction what directive is all about and how its importance in an Angular application. So thank you viewers, thanks for watching this video series. I would say please kindly do subscribe to my channel if you found this is beneficial. You can simply just click on the watermark at the right lower corner which is appearing in this video, else you can just go to the subscribe button below at comment section, right? So there is one subscribe button, kindly click on that, and post that, click on the bell icon so that you will get the notification wherever there is a posting or whenever there is a posting from my end. Okay, so you can just visit to this blog for all my tutorial text version, and for to get the particular text version of this session you kindly visit to this URL. So thank you once again users. So I am coming up with my next video title which is on attributed tips soon. Till then, keep smiling, keep sharing your knowledge with others, and keep learning because learning never has an end. Thank you.